You've probably heard the advice, be careful, don't trust people too easily. Fair enough. But what happens when that caution quietly turns into constant suspicion? When every text, every delay, every facial expression feels like proof someone is lying or hiding something? Discernment and suspicion can look similar from the outside, but on the inside, they feel completely different and lead you to very different lives. One protects you, the other slowly poisons everything you care about. In this video, we're going to draw a clear, practical line between the two. You'll see why suspicion feels so compelling, why it can be addictive, and how to replace it with grounded, calm discernment without becoming naive or a doormat. If you've ever asked yourself, am I being wise or am I just scared? Stay right here. By the end, you'll know how to tell the difference in real time, in your real life. Let's set the stage. Discernment is your ability to see clearly people, patterns, and probabilities without being hijacked by fear. Suspicion is what happens when fear quietly takes the steering wheel and starts calling itself wisdom. They both say be careful, but the energy behind them couldn't be more different. In this video, we'll walk through how discernment and suspicion feel in your body, sound in your thoughts, and show up in your decisions. We'll look at where they come from, how they shape your relationships, and practical tools to strengthen one and loosen the grip of the other. If you're into conversations about emotional intelligence, boundaries, and healthier relationships, this is your space. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell, and stay with me till the end, because I'll share a simple self-check framework you can start using today to know which voice you're listening to, discernment or suspicion. First, let's define our terms clearly. Discernment is the skill of making careful, grounded judgments based on evidence, patterns, and values. It's not just about spotting danger. It's about recognizing what's genuinely good, healthy, and aligned for you. Suspicion, on the other hand, is an anticipatory mistrust. It assumes something is wrong before there's clear evidence. It often starts from anxiety, past hurt, or unresolved trauma, and then looks for proof to justify itself. Discernment asks, what's actually happening here? What do I know, and what do I not know yet? Suspicion says, something's wrong, I just know it, and then cherry-picks everything to confirm that story. One more key difference. Discernment leaves space for curiosity and conversation. Suspicion rushes toward conclusions. As we move through the rest of this video, keep these definitions in mind. They'll be the lens for everything else we cover. Let's talk about how discernment and suspicion feel. Because your body often knows before your mind does. Discernment feels steady. Your breathing is relatively calm. You might feel alert, focused, maybe even a bit serious, but you're not in panic mode. There's room in your chest, space to think, ask questions, or wait for more information. Suspicion usually feels tight, jaw clenched, shoulders raised, stomach knotted. Your thoughts start racing. What if? Why didn't they? What are they hiding? It can feel addictive, like you're solving a puzzle, but underneath, there's a hum of dread. Discernment is compatible with patience. You can say, I'm not sure yet. Let me observe. Suspicion demands urgency. I need to know now. I can't relax until I catch what's wrong. If you're unsure which one you're in, pause and scan your body. Your nervous system will often reveal whether you're grounded in wisdom or flooded by fear. Why do some people lean heavily towards suspicion? Usually, it's not because they're naturally negative. It's because at some point, suspicion worked. Maybe you grew up in a chaotic home where you had to read micro signals to stay safe. Maybe you were blindsided by betrayal, a partner cheated, a friend lied, a company used you. Your brain learned, if I assume the worst, I'll never be surprised again. That's not evil, it's adaptive. But what once protected you can become overgeneralized. You stop using suspicion as a temporary alarm and start living inside it like a permanent bunker. Discernment, in contrast, often develops from a mix of experience and healing. It's what happens when you integrate your wounds instead of letting them steer everything. You keep the lessons, but lose the constant hypervigilance. Understanding this origin story matters because you can't shame yourself out of suspicion. You have to respect why it formed, then update the strategy. Let's zoom into your thoughts. When you're in discernment, your inner dialogue sounds like a good investigator, specific, evidence-based, and willing to be wrong. Discernment says things like, "They've canceled 3 times in a row. That's a pattern. I should talk to them about reliability." Or, "That offer sounds too good. I'll research before deciding." It asks, "What else could be true?" and considers multiple explanations. Suspicion, however, talks in absolutes and accusations. It says, "They always do this. They clearly don't care." Or, "If they're not replying, they must be hiding something." It rarely entertains alternative explanations like, "Maybe they're overwhelmed," or "Maybe there's a misunderstanding." Discernment is comfortable with the sentence, "I don't know yet." Suspicion hates not knowing. It fills in the blanks with worst-case stories, then treats those stories as facts. Start noticing, are your thoughts describing what you know or dramatizing what you fear? Now, let's talk behavior. How do discernment and suspicion act in the real world? Discernment protects with proportion. If something feels off, you set a boundary, ask a clarifying question, or slow down a decision. Your actions are measured. You might say, "Let's take a step back," or "I need more time," or "Can we talk about what happened?" Suspicion, especially when unexamined, tends to overreact or underreact in extreme ways. Overreacting might look like snooping, constant checking, interrogating, or preemptively cutting people off without a real conversation. Underreacting can be a freeze response, feeling something's wrong but staying anyway, while mentally rehearsing worst-case scenarios and silently collecting evidence. Discernment is willing to be visible. It brings concerns into the open. Suspicion often hides in the shadows, gathering proof without ever risking a vulnerable, honest dialogue. Which patterns sound more like you? Remember, the goal isn't self-blame. It's self-awareness, so you can choose a different response next time. A lot of us misunderstand trust as something you either give 0% or 100%. That's a perfect breeding ground for suspicion. If trust means all in or not at all, then any small crack feels catastrophic. Discernment approaches trust as graduated. You don't hand someone the keys to your emotional vault on day 1. You share a little, see how they handle it, then adjust. Trust becomes a sliding scale, not a cliff. Suspicion often assumes, if I relax even slightly, I'll get hurt. So it stays rigid, constantly scanning for danger, interpreting neutrality as threat, and punishing small mistakes like they're massive betrayals. Healthy discernment says, people are imperfect. I'll protect myself with boundaries, not with a permanent emotional lockdown. It allows risk in controlled, thoughtful doses. Ask yourself, am I using discernment to manage degrees of trust, or using suspicion to justify never truly trusting at all? That distinction shapes every relationship you have. Suspicion has a secret. It often creates the very problems it's trying to avoid. This is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you approach people assuming they're dishonest, you might interrogate them, test them, or hold back affection. Over time, they feel distrusted, exhausted, or resentful. Some will eventually pull away, shut down, or even start hiding things because it doesn't feel safe to be open with you. From the suspicious mind, that distance looks like confirmation. See, I was right not to trust. But in reality, the way you related helped build the outcome. Discernment, in contrast, is protective without being hostile. It says, I'll get to know you slowly, but I'll treat you fairly along the way. This creates space for people to show you who they really are, good or bad, without being pushed into a defensive role. When you recognize this pattern, you can shift from, "I must prove they're unsafe," to, "I'll observe and respond to what's actually happening." Let's acknowledge something important. Sometimes your suspicion is right. People do lie. Red flags are real. So how do you respect those signals without living in a permanent state of alarm? This is where structured discernment helps. Instead of reacting to a vague feeling, you consciously separate. 1. Data. What objectively happened? Words, actions, timelines. 2. Impact. How did it make you feel? Hurt, confused, unsafe. 3. Pattern. Has this happened once or repeatedly over time? Suspicion skips these steps and jumps straight to verdict. They're a liar. This is doomed. I knew it. Discernment walks through the steps, then chooses a response. Maybe it's a conversation, a boundary, or in serious cases, walking away. Healthy discernment doesn't mean doubting yourself. It means upgrading from raw, unfiltered fear to a calm, organized way of testing your instincts against reality. So how do you actually build discernment if you've lived in suspicion for a long time? Think of it as strength training for your mind and nervous system. First, practice slowing down. When you feel that suspicious surge, don't act immediately. Name it. I'm feeling suspicious. Naming creates a tiny gap where choice can live. Second, ask yourself 3 questions. What do I know for sure? What am I assuming? What else could be true? Third, reality test with trusted people. Share your interpretation with someone grounded and ask, does this seem balanced or am I spiraling? Borrow their perspective until yours steadies. Over time, these reps build your capacity to feel the initial alarm without letting it run the whole show. You're not suppressing your instincts, you're refining them so they become more accurate and less driven by old wounds. Another big piece is emotional regulation. Suspicion loves an unregulated nervous system. It thrives when you're tired, stressed, or flooded. Before you decide what a situation means, try regulating your body first. That might look like stepping away from your phone for 10 minutes, taking 10 slow breaths, lengthening your exhale, walking around the block and noticing what you see and hear, then revisit the situation. You'll often find your interpretation softens or becomes more nuanced. Discernment is much easier when your body isn't screaming. When your heart rate slows, your brain can access higher functions, nuance, empathy, long-term thinking. So ask yourself, am I reacting from a stormed nervous system or a settled one? If you're in the storm, your only job is to calm the waters. The analysis can wait because accurate reading of reality rarely happens in panic mode. Let's quickly talk about cultural and online influences. We live in a time where calling things out and exposing red flags can feel like a sport. Algorithms reward outrage and suspicion. Calm discernment doesn't go viral as easily. If you consume a constant stream of story time, how I got betrayed content, your brain starts expecting betrayal everywhere. That doesn't mean those stories are false. It means your threat radar gets turned up to maximum. Discernment asks, is this content informing me or infecting me? It lets you learn from others' experiences without assuming their story is your destiny. Suspicion, fueled by endless online cautionary tales, can become a lifestyle, always braced, always ready for the next villain. Be intentional about your inputs. Curate voices that teach nuance, not just drama. The quality of your discernment is heavily shaped by what you feed your mind every day. Let's pull this together into some clear takeaways you can actually use. 1. Discernment versus suspicion starts in your body. Calm steadiness usually signals discernment. Tight urgency often signals suspicion. 2. Discernment is evidence-based. Suspicion is fear-based. One asks, What do I know? The other insists, I just know, without real data. 3. Discernment invites conversation. Suspicion hides and tests. Healthy protection is visible and direct, not secretive and punitive. 4. Suspicion can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Treat people like they're guilty, and many will shut down or withdraw. 5. You can train discernment. Slow down, name your state, separate facts from assumptions, regulate your body, and reality test with safe people. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Discernment protects your future. Suspicion replays your past. Your work is to keep the wisdom of your experiences without letting old wounds write every new chapter. If this stirred something in you, maybe you recognized patterns of suspicion in yourself or in someone you love, don't leave it as just an interesting idea. Turn it into practice. Here's a simple challenge. Over the next week, catch one moment of suspicion each day. Don't shame yourself, just pause, name it, regulate your body, and walk through. What do I know? What am I assuming? What else could be true? Notice how your feelings and choices shift. If you want more content on emotional intelligence, boundaries, and healthier relationships, make sure you're subscribed and the notification bell is on so you don't miss upcoming videos. Drop a comment sharing one insight you're taking away, or a situation where you're now questioning, was that discernment or suspicion? And if this helped, consider sharing it with someone who struggles with trust. Your ability to discern clearly is a quiet superpower. Nurture it, and watch your life straighten out in powerful ways.